Hello everybody, welcome to another Eternal Deck Tech. We have another special one here for you today because this is once again the winner of our Tournament of Power that we do every month on my Twitch channel. So we have a sub-submitted deck. It's called Ageless Rush from Change of Momentum. Congratulations on winning, and we're going to go over the deck here a little bit. So this deck is really cool. Basically, here's the general gist of it. What you're trying to do is play Ageless Mentor to give each unit in your hand that costs 4 or more +2/+2, and then you'll notice that basically everything costs 4 or more. But maybe not. And the reason why I say that is that we've got a bunch of charge units at actual 4, so some of the best charge units in the game: Bandit Queen, Diogo, Venom Rider, Vicious Highwayman. Then we have a bunch of things that we can kind of cheat out. So we have Lurking Sanguar, that you can get down to 0 because it's free if 2 units have dealt damage to the enemy player that turn. And we have Pyre Elemental, costs 4 less if you've played a spell. And last, Sindok, which costs 1 less for each damage the enemy player has taken this turn with flying. All of these make up kind of the big combo side of this. So the goal is to, like, say, turn 3 Ageless Mentor and then immediately go into, like, Diogo, start hitting them, and then go, like, Torch to kill a blocker, Pyre Elemental, or like Lurking Sanguar, and just absolutely hammer them. So you're trying to get, you're not going to worry about things like harsh rules, you're not going to worry about hailstorms, you're just trying to deal as much damage as fast as possible. This looks like a slower deck because of how expensive some of the cards are, but this deck is actually just trying to be ridiculously fast. It's trying to kill people in really, really quick bursty turns. And it's a really cool idea. There are a few things that I would probably change. Something that I would like to say that I do really like about this deck, though, is we talked about it being very bursty and needing like very specific turns. Something that you're going to notice is that it has 0 crests. So there's nothing that comes into play automatically depleted. You might have banners that come into play depleted, you might have seats that come into play depleted, but the idea is to have almost all non-depleted power. And I actually like that. I think that's good. Because in a deck like this, where it relies very, very carefully on hitting like specific turns and being as bursty as possible, you don't want to get into a point in the game where you say, get an Ageless Mentor, and you're hoping to top deck so that you can just wham bam slam down 2 Pyre Elementals or something off of a Torch. You end up drawing, say, like a crest. You don't want to do that. You really, really want to be able to go like, okay, I hit my Ageless Mentor, get my turn 4, okay, now I need Torch, Pyre Elemental, and just kill my opponent. You don't want to have a crest in that situation. You don't want to have to top deck that. You want to be able to top deck like a Fire Sigil or a Praxis banner and have something that's undepleted. In that vein, you might want a few less seats and a few more banners, or maybe cut like a couple seats out just for more sigils so that you can make sure that they're undepleted. But the idea is really, really solid. The idea of just not having anything that for sure comes into play depleted is actually fantastic. People put crests in every single deck, and they're really, really powerful, but you've got to realize that sometimes it's good to make sure that you're actually curving out, and this is a deck that just really, really needs to make sure it's hitting those when it needs them. So it might be able to run 1 or 2, but the idea of not running any is actually pretty great. Now I want to get into the side of things where I'd like some changes that I might make myself. Xenan Lifespeaker is a pretty cool card, but I think that purposefully I would change it to one of 2 things. It's cool because it helps you fight off like really aggro decks where you can get some lifesteal and swing the game around really, really fast. But we already have like Vicious Highwayman, we already have Lurking Sanguar, so I'm not as worried about that. I think I would change the Xenan Lifespeaker, if I could, to an Initiate of the Sands, or the other option would be to go with Quarry, because we already have Dark Returns, and it makes Pyre Elemental easier to play. Smooths out the draws a lot so you can make sure that you're hitting your mana. As you can tell, it's a little bit dicey on the actual influence. There's a lot of things that require a lot of different influences in this deck, so it's nice to have something that would smooth it out. I think that if you're looking at making this deck, you might want to try testing one of those, or even just doing like a split of them, something like that. I would try and look at maybe an option for Xenan Lifespeaker. And you might end up where you keep 1 or 2 of them and just have like a couple of Initiates or a couple of Quarries. But my idea would be to maybe run a couple of those style of cards instead. Obviously, I love talking about my number one pet peeve, which is the market and what you should put in it. So we have Aurelian Merchants. There's no banner in the sideboard. I really, really, really want to just impress on people. Please, if you can, fit some kind of power card into the market. It just really helps out. I would advocate for a banner because of the fact that if you're playing Aurelian Merchant, you get a banner, you can always get it into play undepleted. Just straight up. So if you end up later in the game, say you're on turn 6, and you really have to get like an Aurelian Merchant into, say, Torch Pyre Elemental or something, you need another 3 mana, or it's like turn 7, and you need to go Aurelian Merchant into Bandit Queen, but you don't have the influence for it. You don't have a power card yet, like, so you're at 6 power, and you need to get that last one. Really, really nice to have it undepleted. And there's so many games where, even if your mana's generally really, really good, you're going to have some kind of power issue at some point. It's going to be more common than you'd think, and it's probably more common than whatever hedge case you've decided on for like a Disjunction or any other kind of like more narrow sideboard card. Those are good cards. They're not necessarily wrong to have in your market, but it's nice to make sure that you also have a way to solve a more broad problem, which is you're going to have power issues at some point against some deck somewhere. And I like having that in the market. So I'd probably switch that out. I like Sandstorm Titan a lot, because obviously this deck is going to be pretty weak to flyers. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have any way to stop them really either. I mean, basically it's just Sindok. So it's really nice to be able to stop somebody if they're trying to race you in the air. You can slam Sandstorm Titan. Sandstorm Titan's just an excellent sideboard card. Infinite Hourglass is pretty good too. Our deck's fairly weak to things like Permafrost, and just, destroying all of those at the same time is nice. Ageless Mentor, I don't know. It might need to be in the main deck. It's close. You want to be able to curve it out is the thing. So getting it on like turn 3 and then turn 4 you've got Ageless Mentor. It's a little bit slower. So I might almost just like want to go all in on the combo and just hope that you draw it all the time. Give yourself a better chance of actually curving out with it by having one more in the main board. So I'd look at maybe that. I'm a little iffy on Disjunction. Obviously, it's very, very good against Praxis tokens. Killing obelisks is important, so you might want to do that. You could also run something like Shattered Glass Mage, too, though, and then you just have another good creature to overwhelm past all of their units, too. Like, I really like Shattered Glass Mage if you have the option to go Praxis against something like tokens, because they have a lot of ways to chump block things, and if you've got Shattered Glass Mage instead, I mean, it works with Ageless Mentor for 1, and for 2, it's hard for them to block it, because they can't really chump blocks. They have to throw a bunch of things in front of it, or just let it hit them over and over and over, which is really important for you. So I do kind of like that a little bit more myself. Obviously, Disjunction being a lot cheaper is really helpful. Alhed's the one that I don't know if it has a spot here. It's a great card, it's really powerful, but this deck is really, like I said before, it's almost like a combo deck. It's very, very aggressive, so I wouldn't say that we want to run something like Alhed, which is more of a long-term, get a whole bunch of value kind of card, right? You want to draw multiple units that get doubled because of Alhed. You don't really need to do that if you're just trying to burst down Pyre Elemental on turn 5 with, like, a bunch of them. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, in my mind, to have Alhed. I think that if you're going to go super late like that, one Alhed is not enough to win you a game against those style of decks where you're stuck going really, really long. In any case, this is the deck. We're going to take it in for some games. I hope that you liked the little bit of a breakdown that we had here at the start. And again, thank you to all the subs and patrons who make this tournament possible. It's really cool. This is a fantastic idea for a deck. This was an old deck a while back, but the addition of things like Pyre Elemental is something that I haven't really seen a lot of people think about and use, so it's really cool that this was out here, and this deck is really fun. So I certainly think that this is really awesome, and thank you very much for entering it into our tournament Change of Momentum. Let's go into some games.